Today is Tuesday and it's about 9:57, so I'm starting just a few minutes early. And of course, it's August the 22nd. And what I would like to do is for everyone to read over the disclaimer if you have not already done so. This is for your protection as well as mine. And one thing that every trader needs to realize is that trading does involve losses. So you should never trade with money that you cannot afford to lose. So I'm just going to give everyone a few minutes to read over that, and then we'll get started. Okay, the other thing I wanted to point out before we get started in the markets today is that the new book that I just finished is now available on my website. It'll probably be next week before it's available on Amazon. And it is Trading Nadex Binary Options Using Currencies. And this has a lot of information about currencies, and it's only the currencies that are offered through Nadex. But if you're new to currencies, I would consider this a must-have book. We do go through the last 10 years for both the average movement and the minimum movement on a per hour basis, as well as the 2016 average move and minimum move by hour. In addition to that, all of the market reports that affect currencies consistently is within this book, and it's broken down by like Aussie dollar, the euro, the British pound, the Canadian, the Swiss franc, and the Japanese yen, as well as the US dollar. It's really a great book for those that are new to trading Forex. Now, the one thing I also want to point out this morning on the futures, do you see how on the daily, the top is the weekly, the bottom is the daily? Do you notice how it has formed this congestion area right here? Now, to me, that is very significant in the market because typically what happens is it will come down to this congestion dot, then it will come back up to test for resistance, then it will break through. The fact that this did not break through is significant, okay? And it tells me that this 5764 area may actually hold today. Does everybody understand that? What should have happened is it should have broken through, okay? And it did not. So that typically means more likely it will actually come back to this ATR and may even go through this ATR, okay? And that is just something that we see happen over and over. You know, it breaks an ATR, it goes back to test it, and then it will go through the congestion dot. The fact that it did not makes me think we're going to go back up in the markets, okay? Now, Forex has also been very active. You can see, and I've, really kind of shrunk this down so everybody could see it. And this scanner window is just critical to me. And you can see we have a magenta peak right now on the USD Japanese yen. Now, when that came in, it actually came in on this bar. It indicated that the market would go up to this ATR. So there's some really nice short-term trades, but we've also had magenta peaks on the Aussie dollar, and that was on the 60-minute. We've also had them on the British pound. This one actually caused a magenta peak to come in earlier, and I just don't have the ADX on this chart. If I did, you would see it. And I believe there was one other one on the euro dollar. And again, that would indicate that it would retrace back to this ATR. And that is supporting this ATR right here on the 240. In other words, I would anticipate some upward movement off of this ATR. Does everybody understand that? Any questions on that, guys? Now, currently, right now, you can see that the Euro 240 is at the ATR. Now, you could bring up the chart and see that, but of course, the radar screen actually highlights it for you. You can also see that the Aussie dollar is at the congestion dot here. What would I anticipate? I would anticipate it going back to this ATR because that's the way support and resistance works. It flipped the ATR, okay, but it has to go back and make sure that this area is going to resist price, because what happens if it doesn't resist price? Well, then it comes back down. Let's see. Let's look at the euro yen. Right now, the euro yen is at the ATR over here. It may actually come down, not a trade I would want to take, though. It's not confirmed on the other time frames. The USD Swiss franc is overextended, and that means more likely than not it will come down. Where would it go? Right back to this ATR, which is currently at 96.43. I was trying to see if any of the others were overextended, and actually they're not. So I'm going to move that back off. I'm going to move the higher time frames off the screen. And then we can actually just look at the 180, the 45, the 12, and the 3. Now, the one thing I do is I do a dual time frame when I'm using NinjaTrader. And the reason that I do the dual time frame, it takes up less space on my monitors, but it also aligns my time frames. In other words, if I want to go into this 180, I'm using a 12-minute. If I want to go into the 45, then I am using the 3-minute. The same thing on the Dow and also on the ES, which I have on my other screen. So you can see if I want to go into that 180, I'm going to be using the 12-minute. If I want to go into the 45, I will be using the 3-minute. Now, is right now a perfect time to go long on any of these indices? And my answer would be no, because right now the 12-minute stochastics is showing that the market is overextended to the upside. If we go and we look at the Dow, it's overextended to the long side. The NASDAQ, overextended to the long side. So these are not areas where I want to take a trade right now because they're overextended. They should retrace. Okay. Now, more than likely, the retracement comes in when both the stochastics and the ADX is overextended together. You can see the ADX is only at 52 on the NASDAQ. Over on the Dow, it's at 62. So it still has just a little bit of ways to go. It may come down early simply because the NASDAQ 180 is overextended. The 180 Dow is overextended, and so is the 180 ES. Does everybody understand that? In other words, the 180 is probably going to push it down. And I'm looking for that retracement to occur for me to be able to enter the trade. That's what I would like to see. But it also means we're going to have to wait a few minutes before we take a trade. Since we're waiting on the indices to line up, I may actually take a trade on the USD JPY. The only reason I'm interested in this is at the ATR over here. This is going to push the market down, and this has acted as resistance for price. And the next thing I'm going to do is actually look at what binaries are available. Now, just for those that don't realize the green up here, this is a demo account. And I want to see where it's currently trading. It's trading at 38. This would be about a $35 risk, a little bit over 35. So I want to actually short it, and we'll see what happens. Any questions on that? Now notice that, I'm at 34. This is 4 pips from where price is currently trading. Okay. The other thing I would like to see, and I typically look at, is the fact that price is trading at 38 and the ATR is at 14. So there is plenty of room there, even if it doesn't make it down to this ATR, if it just gets to this congestion dot, or if it just goes halfway, I'm still within that area. Does everybody understand that? And this reversal bar has about 3.5 minutes. Okay. Would I have done that back on this bar? No. Well, you have to weigh that. What's the likelihood that this bar will continue that formation? Well, it's pretty good. As I like to say, more than likely it's not going to change drastically in the next 3.5 minutes. Now, I do want to go ahead and set a target. And since this is a short position, I'm going to set a $15 target, okay? Any questions so far? Again, we can go back and see if there's, anything else that is interesting. I am looking at the British pound. I'd like that to get closer here. And I guess I'll go ahead and put in the ADX. I know there's a magenta peak on there. I believe there is. See, there's your magenta peak here. So it may come back and test this low, but that's why I'm watching over here. Notice also this green dot tells me that there is trend divergence on the British pound at this particular area. I'm waiting. I want to see it get just a little bit closer to this ATR before I actually make a decision. You can also see on the 60-minute, it is oversold, okay? Plus, you've had this magenta peak, okay? And all it's doing now is coming back and testing this area, okay? I'm waiting for this to get a little bit closer to this ATR for me to take a position. If you look at the USD JPY, which we're in right now, you can see that this was overextended, made a magenta peak here, comes back to the ATR. It's went slightly higher now, but the stochastics has not went higher, so that means we're going to have trend divergence there. And at the same time, we have a reversal bar to the downside over here at an ATR over here with an ADX at 85. So this is why I'm saying I'm going short. Doesn't mean I'll be right, but it's more likely to the downside than it is to the upside. And this morning kind of highlights too why I like to look at the Forex as well as the futures, because I would be inclined to force a trade on the futures if that's all I was trading. But instead, I said, nah, I'll go ahead and look at Forex because I know Forex is moving because the scanner is actually showing a lot of magenta peaks this morning. And again, I typically do not have it on the chart because I read the scanner window. We do have the tools program for Market Analyzer for NinjaTrader. Not quite the same as multi-charts, but let me see if I can bring one up and show it to you. Let's see. We'll do the NASDAQ, the Dow, the ES. Let's do the 12-minute on this one. So using the market analyzer, you can see that the Dow is overbought and there's 53 ticks to the ATR. On the NASDAQ, there's 91 ticks. On the ES, there are 26 ticks. And I actually think these are going to go down for a retracement. After the retracement, it may go up, but I think it's going to go down right now. And that's supported by the 180 being overextended too. I'm going to bring the 12-minute over. Now, I know, and if you buy the tools, you're well versed in this. If price comes down to about here, that's where that magenta peak is going to come in, and you'll get this formation very similar to what we had over here. And this is what I'm looking for, that retracement. And this is why I know I have a while before a trade setup comes in on the ES. So I'm going to move that off a minute. We'll move this off so I can see the Dow as well. This is the 12-minute NASDAQ. This is 12-minute Dow. And if we go down, we see that we are overextended. There is no sign right now of a retracement on either one of these. So it's going to be a while for that trade setup to come in on the Dow. It might be this afternoon before it comes in. Since this is basically what we're trading, I'm actually going to look at this one, and I'll kind of pin it here so we can keep an eye on it. It is too early to exit the trade because you have a bar going against you. This bar is going against us right now, and you can see it because we're down, about $10. If it continued, and it actually continued in that fashion, I may say, okay, I'm going to give it one more bar, or I'm going to rethink this, okay? But right now, with almost 8 minutes left, too early. There's a lot that can change in that bar in 8 minutes. Does everybody understand that one? When you see the charts changing, it is because I'm using the scanner over here, and I'm actually looking at it, because sometimes it'll go up and hit an ATR or be close enough where it will pop up here and say add an ATR. And that's exactly what was happening on the Aussie. The 60-minute was at the ATR. Okay, I'm going to go get something to drink while we are waiting on this to continue forming. And I'm just going to pin that there so I can keep an eye on it. While we're watching that, I'm also watching the ES on my other screen. And, one thing I look at is the volume. And you can see we had a lot of volume in this, but it's kind of subsiding, They're not coming in strong, which is anticipated with this being overextended and this almost at the point of being overextended. Then when you look down here, you can see as those highs were made, you have divergence on the stochastics 3-minute chart. Again, you would have to come into about 2440 for that to come in. Could you take that real aggressively? Yeah, you could. I'm not going to. Here you can see in the market analyzer, and this is the same thing that I have been saying, which is why I don't want to take a future trade right now. They are all overbought. Okay. Not the best place for an entry. If you really wanted to be in this and you had the indicators, then you would have been in, at this congestion dot when you knew it was going to go up. Okay. This was providing an area that would more than likely support price to go up. Okay. Don't enter in the middle. The middle is not my entry spot. I am waiting on the USD Swiss franc. I think sometime today it will come back and test this ATR. I would like to see it supporting price because then I would know it's going to go back up. Not there yet. It's 35 seconds. Now, this is one that I anticipate this to go up to this congestion dot. But this is going to be a little bit iffy because the higher time frame, which is the 240, is still showing that it's downward. That's a little bit iffy, so I'm going to go out until 12 o'clock. And it is currently trading at 28.15, which would be here. So I'm going to go out one strike up and do it at 30.75. Now, one strike is at 26, which will be here, pretty much. So even if it doesn't make it all the way up, as long as it takes out the high of this bar, I would be okay. Does everybody understand that? I'm not risking a lot either. Let's see. Okay, so we basically have two binaries going on. And I'll keep them both stuck right there. And on this one, I am going to place a profit target at 85. And I do that because sometimes I get distracted. And even if I'm distracted and it goes and hits my profit target, then I will have made money. This is where you're probably going to get this magenta peak on the Dow. The NASDAQ and the ES will probably follow suit. You can also keep this in view, because what will happen is if it gets to the ATR, then it will come up here and say price to ATR, and it will say price at ATR, just like the scanner window does in multi-charts. Any questions this morning? Everybody's super quiet. Okay. I did change my ADX to update Intrabar and NinjaTrader. It does take more resources to do that, but it will allow me to see when this peak comes in. Again, if it takes out the low of this previous bar, and it doesn't have to take it out by much, but I would say if it comes down to here, that's where you're going to get the magenta peak. And you could trade that, but you would have to go down to a 1 minute chart, which I'm not going to do in the room. You have to make sure that people can understand before they start trading it, and I would not want anyone going down to a 1 minute trader unless they knew what they were doing. It can be done. That's all I'm saying. You can also see over on the higher time frame, you can see you've definitely made volume divergence here. That's usually indicative that it will come back down. Also have a wide bar to the upside, and typically they retrace about 50%, which would put it about in there. Just things I notice on a chart. And really, it would be kind of hard not to notice it. Each of the colors has a significance. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the indicators. And we also have features you can turn on and off. For example, if you don't know your price bars, okay, you could go to the trend indicator and you could say, okay, I need to see the reversal bar. And it plainly states here, plot reversal bar. If you check that, then click apply. It will start plotting these dots on the reversal bars. You can see it here. Here's a reversal bar. We also have another one that is called the Trend SR. I don't have it on my chart. Well, I have it over here. Do you see how it extends this line of dots? That is from the Trend SR. So, regardless of whether you know price bars or not, we have built in tools to help you identify that. Now, I would anticipate that it will break through this white congestion dot here on the USD JPY. And that's just because it's typical price behavior. And that's what I look at. Just like on the British pound. Okay, we got filled on the USD JPY because it disappeared. That means the order was filled. Now, on the British pound trade, I would anticipate that it would at least make it back up to 28.49. That's what I would anticipate. My dogs are howling. It must be an ambulance somewhere in the area. If y'all can hear that, I apologize in advance, but they don't like ambulances, so. Well, one of the things that will make this tricky on the ES to trade back to this ATR is because it should flip this ATR. But when it flips the ATR, you get the same formation as on the USD JPY. In other words, it flipped the ATR, went to the congestion dot, and then it went back to test to make sure that this is going to resist price. Okay? So if we try to enter that now, then by the time our 2 hour was expiring, it would be doing this formation right here. That's the reason I'm having some patience on the futures this morning. Now, one reason I bought this chart up is I want to see, okay, where are the premiums on the chart trading? And, to me, that's kind of important because I want to see what's the likelihood of me making a profit target. Okay. So right now I have a profit target in, and it's at 85. So what I'm looking at is how far is 85 down on this deep in the money. And you can see it's about 2 strikes. So this is my strike, and it would have to go 2 strikes above, which would be here and here. And this is just in general, okay? 1246 is going to be before this red dot. So that immediately tells me I may have to take profits at 75 instead of 85. Does everybody understand that? Can everybody hear me this morning? Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I wasn't having any questions. I really want to see this bar continue up. That's the only way we'll get our profit target. I need it to come above 28.36. And it doesn't seem like it's got a lot of get up and go this morning. Oh, sorry, George. This one, I think it will take out this congestion dot at 1776, but you have an ATR right up above you. I'm not interested in that one. I'll go back to the Aussie. This ATR is telling me it's going to go down, but this one, which is your next higher time frame, is saying it's going to go up. On the euro yen, this is saying up, and this, if it gets to this ATR, may come down. It's not a good trade. No. We did that one. Let's do it with a CAD. You're almost at the point of being oversold here, and this one is going to come down. No. Not doing that one. This one, I'm waiting on a retracement back to the ATR. I will not enter until that happens. And we already did this one. And see, this is exactly why I look at, is there enough room for profits? Do you see how that turned? Okay. But we still made profits on it. You can do that with the binary. So put this back over here. And I'm really not seeing anything right now. It probably won't come in until this afternoon as it stands right now, because there's no way I'm going to trade these knowing that I'm overextended. Okay. Just as soon as I go into that market, it's going to turn. You're overextended. You're overextended. You're overextended. You're overextended. I would have to go short, and this is not one I'm going to show in the room. Here, overextended. Here, you're overextended. I know you're overextended because it tells me that here. These are not markets I'm going to go into right now, because just as soon as you jump into them, you're going to get a loss. Same thing over here on the ES. Overextended, overextended, overextended. Okay? I'm not going into overextended markets. Okay? We had 2 really good trades. I'm done for the day. It's that simple to me. Any questions? Okay, if y'all don't have any questions, I'm going to stop the recording, and I will have this posted sometime this afternoon.